Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 21 AGM. My name is Tristan Illich, and I'm the chair of 21. Thank you for taking the time to attend our AGM meeting today. Today's AGM will last approximately 20 to 25 minutes. And following this, we have an exciting After 5 presentation from our friends at Google. There are a couple of items which will require meeting attendees to vote on today. And this will be done electronically via Zoom. So please ensure that you have your name and company set correctly in Zoom, because we'll be using this to as a record of the voting. If you have any questions, please pop those into the Q&A button. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this afternoon's program. So in terms of agenda day, we'll launch in very shortly to the formal part of the AGM, and we'll go through our finance report, CEO's report, chair's report. Craig will announce the results of our election, general business and closing, and then we'll be into our our After 5 presentation. Next slide, please. Chantel, thank you. So proxies and apologies have been received, and those are just on the screen. I won't read those out, and obviously those proxies will be assigned to the chair for any voting. So thank you for those people that sent their apologies and proxies through. Next slide, please, Chantel. All right, very shortly, a voting button should appear for you to vote on the 2020 AGM minutes. So a copy of these minutes were circulated to members via email prior to today's AGM. If you do need a copy of those, please don't hesitate to get in contact. So members are asked to resolve that, that they approve the minutes of the 2020 AGM meeting as a true and accurate record of that meeting. So if you could use the electronic poll to approve, reject, or abstain, please do so. That voting will be open for the next couple of minutes. All right, next slide, thank you. One more slide, Chantal. Great, so it's my pleasure as the chair of 21 to present to you the chair's report today. This is the second time that I've had the pleasure of presenting the chair's report, and both times have been had to be done virtually because we've been in lockdown. So hopefully third time lucky next year, if I'm still the chair, we'll get to do that in person. So thank you everyone for making the time to come on today. It is my privilege to serve as the board chair, and I'd like to extend my thanks to the board for this continued support and the work that they do to make 21 a great organisation. From the board's perspective, the future of 21 is very bright. It truly is. Over the last year, 21 has invested significant time and resources into redefining its purpose and vision. This was important to ensure that 21 remain relevant and viable long term. So the shift from telecommunications to technology was long overdue, and now that we're there, the future of 21 looks incredibly bright from a board's perspective. In order to realise our new purpose and vision, we have developed a strategic 3-year plan. So our purpose at 21 is to ensure that every New Zealander makes the most of the digitally connected world, regardless of their location, ethnicity, or income. This is about closing the digital divide so we can all succeed together. And we like to set targets. So our vision is to see New Zealand at the top, in the top 10 digital ready nations by 2030. Now, this is a bold aspiration that will drive our work program over the next decade. It gives us something to measure ourselves against along the way. And it also forces us to need to broaden our reach and influence by advocating for all Kiwi users of technology. And this is a job that we are tackling head on. Next slide, please. 21 has always had limited resources, and so we need our work does need to be focused. So for the next 2 years, we've set ourselves an action plan with 3 key objectives, which are in the presentation there. So the first of those is being the independent voice for all Kiwi users of technology. This will see us continuing our long-standing advocacy work alongside government and industry. Second is working to prepare New Zealanders for a digital future. This means collaborating with more digital and technology partners to create a forum and opportunities which encourages everyone to participate in the digital economy. And finally, ensuring that 2Ns is operationally positioned to achieve its purpose and vision. And that's about us transitioning some of the back-end systems and modernising our member benefits to truly represent what 2Ns now stands for. Over the past year, we've been working hard to develop new strategic partnerships. It's through these partnerships and the support of our members that we will achieve our objectives. And a great example of this has been 2Ns' involvement in the development and delivery of the Digital Boost Alliance program on behalf of government. Now, this program, given 2Ns' independence, industry relationships and expertise, 2Ns was asked by government to take on the program delivery role of the Digital Boost. This is a great example of how 2Ns working alongside government and leading digital technology providers is going to make a real difference for small Kiwi business users. And we'll continue to seek further strategic partnerships over the coming year, aligned with our focused areas. Next slide, please, Chantal. Yep, next one, sorry. Right. Looking ahead, 2Ns will continue to advocate on behalf of members and all Kiwi technology users. 2Ns provides an important voice to these debates. Our events programs are going from strength to strength. Despite the challenges of a COVID lockdowns, actually this has been a silver lining, and it's brought us forward new ways of delivering great events and content to our members. Finally, I'd like to recognise the many strategic partners, members and friends who support the work we do. Without you, we simply couldn't achieve what we have. I'd also like to recognise the hard work and dedication of our CEO, Craig Young, and our board, who work tirelessly on behalf of 2Ns and its members. All right, I'll now hand over to Teresa to go through the finance report.
Thanks so much, Tristan. Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Corvallis, and I'm from the Finance Committee. And I'd really just like to say that even with some of our challenges this year with COVID, we've actually come through quite strong into 2021. So the net result is, the year ended in March 31st, 2021, we were in a surplus. So in a much better position than we were even last year. So we had a surplus of 10,321, and last year we had a deficit of 20,477. So, a lot of what we've done from our strategic mission and vision is really working, and we see that even with some of the challenges. The gross operating revenue, year on year has also been slightly, well, it's really stayed about the same, slightly lower from last year, but that's only really because we've had some additional expenditures that were unforecasted, and because of the delay of some of our events that we had specifically for the Rural Symposium event that was not able to continue because of COVID. Next slide, please. So just, high level cash in the bank, we're looking, also in a more positive position year over year than last. The accounts receivable has been slightly below, of course, but overall our assets have stayed, not necessarily the same, but because of the receivables having decreased because of the COVID and the events not going forward, that's why you're seeing a bit more on the lower side of this year. Next slide. And I would just say that, you know, from an accounts payable perspective, we're looking slightly lower than we were last year. Income in advance also slightly lower. And as such, the net assets and member equity is slightly lower than it was last year as well. As I mentioned at the opening, the net result really is, you know, the forecast for this year of having the surplus of 10,320 and really looking at that net result of 3,000. That's a positive outcome for us this year. And the operating revenue also is quite a positive result from last year to this year, and we're looking at the same, staying, you know, primarily the same into next year, 2022. We will put a copy of our financial audits, the audited reports, up on the website. So if you do want to go through those in any more detail, please feel free to do so, and we'll answer any questions that you may have. So if you could you please now at this point approve or reject or abstain from the audited accounts and financial section of the annual AGM. Thank you.
Kia ora, and thank you. If I haven't met you before, which I'm sure I have, I'm Craig Young, CEO of 21Sep24, and I'd like to present my report where I'm going to look back over the last year and talk about what we've managed to achieve and take any questions that come out of that. So if we could move to the next slide, please, Chantal. Obviously, I've highlighted all this in red because the pandemic has had a significant impact on our operations. And we did mention this in last year's AGM, given that we had gone into lockdown just before the end of the financial year. But this year, obviously, we've had the full impact of the COVID situation. We've had a number of lockdowns, particularly alert level changes in Auckland. We had a number of level 3s particularly, and one when we came back from holiday at the beginning of the year. The board had made quite early a decision that no in-person events would happen except at level 1. This is mainly around the fact that any other level, while at level 2 you can hold events, you can't do any of those things that make our events of real value, which is the networking, the ability to actually meet together, sit down and have a chat over a drink and some nibbles is unable to be held at level 2. At level 2, you've got to be served while you're sitting at your table. So it doesn't work for those events. And the flagship events were impacted, obviously, with the Rural Connectivity Symposium going online, except for the Flint Future of Work conferences, which were able to be held in November. And last year, we decided to hold those across all 4 cities, so Auckland, Hamilton, Wellington and Christchurch, rather than just Auckland and Wellington. And they were highly successful events. And like any of our events that are labelled Flint or in our Flint program, any 21Sep member is able to attend those events. They're actually open to anybody. They're just targeted in that particular demographic. And we do get between 10 and 20% of people that attend those events being from the general 21Sep membership. I'd like to also mirror Tristan's comment about our support of our partners, without who we again wouldn't have achieved what we managed to or get through the year. So I'll name a few of them. Internet New Zealand, we're particularly thankful to Jordan and the team there for their support and ongoing partnership. Skills Consulting Group, who support our Next Gen program, but also support us on a partnership level. Enable in Christchurch, and Chorus in a general partnership level as well. Obviously, if you go through the accounts, we did have a reduction in our travel costs, our meeting costs, and also in our recruitment costs, and that's recruitment of members. And so when we get to the member numbers, you'll see there's a slight reduction. We were unable to really get out there and do a membership push. We're hoping at the beginning of next year, when we're at level 1, that's the assumption, we'll be able to really make a real transition using our new strategy and where we've been going. I just put at the bottom there a couple of things. We're also trying to upgrade our website to be much more of an information site. So last year we implemented a couple of things around working from home, and these are just 2 I picked out, and 5G. So some of the, to try and counter some of the information around what 5G was. And we aim to include more and to continue to update our website. So we can have the next slide, please. So just some of the key numbers. Just across our members, membership is a funny thing when you try to talk about numbers. So 163 members of 2Ns. What you've got in there are 120 corporates who range from size from companies such as BNZ, Westpac, Chorus, Spark, Air New Zealand, some of those really large corporates, government departments such as MB, right down to small 1 or 2 people companies. So it's hard to tell when you look at that number just what that means, but there are about 43 individuals or students that are members as well. It does mean there's about 3,000 people or named individuals on our membership list who have put their name on the list to receive information from us. About 1,500 people get our newsletter on a Monday. And every Monday morning I get up and the first thing I do is write that newsletter. And I know that I get quite a bit of feedback saying that they appreciate it. The 707 people who call themselves Flint members, the vast majority of those are individuals from within our corporate members. So they are counted in that 3,000 that I talked about. There are a number that aren't, and we very much see this program as a retention program, but also a recruitment program for 2Ns. And there's a couple of things that I'll talk about in a moment around what we're doing in that space. And I would just make the note that all our Flint programs and events aren't actually funded out of any of our member investments that you make. The Flint program and events and our Next Gen program are all supported and sponsored by partnerships and sponsorships. So they are cost neutral to 2Ns itself. 2 flagship events both went online, the rural event and the digital conversion conference that we had after last year's AGM. We ran 17 webinars and we only managed to do 3 after 5s. Again, after 5s are self-funding, but I think you can see the impact of COVID there. If you look at those 2, that's 20 events that we ran against 32 the year before. It gets a little bit tricky because those webinars are available across the country, not just in every location. But it does show the impact of COVID on things that happened last year. And, already we know that every time we get to a situation where a lockdown occurs, suddenly we've got to pivot and do something different. Those webinars covered a variety of events such as 5G, working from home, negotiation skills. And then our Next Gen program, which continues to grow, we're up to cohort 9, which is currently underway. We did a review of that program at the beginning of the year and decided that it was well worth it, and Skills Consulting Group have continued to support that program. Next slide, please, Chantal. But one of the things we have done this year is up our output. So we've upped the things that we have made available in report form, which include priorities and recommendations and things that we can use, particularly in our advocacy work. So the symposium from last year's Rural Connectivity Symposium, the communique, had 6 key recommendations that we've been pushing with government. And then earlier this year, we did the Aotearoa's Digital Priorities in 2021, where we interviewed 27 CIOs and senior execs. We'll be doing that again at the beginning of next year. And we came out with 6 priorities in that one as well. And I just put the action plan there again, because there are some things we're doing internally that Tristan's already mentioned around our back end. We've done a full customer CX journey review on our events, and we're using that in looking at what we should do with our events. We've also done a board review of membership. We've just started looking at a board review of membership. What does membership mean? And certainly looking at how we fund the organisation and whether that should be tuned to whether our funding should be matched to membership. And the other thing we're doing is a whole review of onboarding and how we take members on and the lifetime journey that a person might take when they belong to 2ANZ. So when they move companies as individuals, what happens if they start with Flint? How can we migrate them or move them into being as part of the Next Gen program? But then also, how can we move them into being a general member of 2ANZ? Next slide, please. And just the last thing before I answer, there's a question there that has popped up that I'll answer. It is 35 years in March 2022 from when we were incorporated. And so this is our 35th year, and we intend to use this logo from now until at least March next year, around that 35 years. We don't intend to have an event or a party for this particular one. We did it 30, but it's just recognising that period of time that we've been around. That's my report, but I will answer a question before I go any further. And there was a question that says, should we invest more on 2ANZ events rather than Flint events, which is a very good question. The Flint events are self-funding and are run by volunteers in each location. And so, in some respects, we are building those to be self-sustaining. And so we can look then to, and as no member monies are going into those events, then, we use those monies for 2ANZ events, so our flagship events, etc. I think it's been a strange year where we've been unable to host events that we really wanted to, and particularly after fires, which I know that 2ANZ members particularly value. And I'll take from this question that in this coming year that we should focus strongly on ensuring we can bring those strong after fives back into the community. So if there's any other questions, I think that's all I've had so far. But I've taken that one on board. That's it. So that's my report. So if we could move on, please, to the board election results. So we've just gone through a board election process. We had 6 available positions on the board, which were elected, and we had a strong number of candidates turn up. So I'd like to announce who those the members that were elected. So Jenna Woolley, Tristan Illich, Wendy McGowan, Zoe Udi, and Maxine Elliott were all re-elected to the board. So thank you very much for your vote of confidence in those. And Matthew Harrison from Primo in Taranaki was elected to the board as well. So thank you for that. So this is what the board looks like. So we also at the same time made a review of the makeup of the board and the types of sectors and marketplaces and members that the board represented. So we're really pleased to say, we're geographically spread now, with Andy Edwards in the South Island, Matthew Harrison now in Taranaki, Nice Williams and Wendy McGowan in Bay of Plenty in Waikato, and Zoe in Wellington. And we recognise that we didn't have on the board a member who represented our large corporate users. And so we're pleased to say that the board has appointed Paul Littlefair from BNZ onto the board to be representative of that group. And he's also in Wellington. So you can see we've got a nice representative spread. Maybe I should mention that we also have international representation with Vaughan Baker, who is currently residing in Singapore. So I'd just like to say thank you to 2 board members who will be leaving us this time. Will Graham, who stepped down at the beginning of the year, who was from Network for Learning, and Liz Gosling. I'd like to say a particular thanks to Liz from AUT, the CIO at AUT. She's done 6 years on our board, has had a period of time as the chair, and we're incredibly thankful for her time being with us and helping us out. So that's the board elections. I'll hand you back to Tristan for any other business.
That's great. Thanks, Craig and Teresa, for your reports. And congratulations to the existing board members, and certainly extend our warm thanks to, our warm welcome to our new board members. We obviously have a lot of work ahead of us in the coming year. And it's great to have, as Craig mentioned, great to have a board that's now so diverse in terms of both gender, location, and representing the broad range of members and users that we do represent. So this is general business. So this is a time if there are any questions that you'd like to put to Craig, myself, or Teresa representing the board, please use the Q&A. We'll leave that open for 30 seconds to see if there are any questions. Otherwise, we will move swiftly into the after 5, which is going to be a presentation by our friends at Google. So if you do have any questions, please post them now, or otherwise, if you prefer to get in contact with Craig or myself outside of the meeting, then we're more than happy to field any questions or have any discussions at any time. So maybe give that another 10 seconds. All right, Craig, I think everyone is happy. So over to you for